The biggest problem of the modern world is distractions. With waning attention spans becoming the new norm, it makes you question how anyone could be productive. Think about it. How many times have you sat down and intent on completing some task only to get sidetracked a few minutes in? It's distractions that are preventing you from reaching your true potential and being as productive as you want to be. And with the amount of problems software engineers have to solve daily, maintaining focus is the new superpower. So, what's the secret? The answer is simple. You need to enter a flow state. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 quick and actionable tips that will help you unlock insane focus on command. These are the exact tips I follow to achieve a deep flow state and accomplish in a few hours what most take a full day to do. You can go ahead and implement these tips after this video and see how effective they are for yourself. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Tip number 1 for entering a flow state is you need to learn to commit. Flow isn't something you can just turn on like a switch. It takes time. I'd say it takes about 10 to 20 minutes on average to get into flow. If you get distracted or interrupted during that initial phase, then you'll never get into flow. And this is the exact reason why entering a flow state is so hard for most people. Because let's be honest, getting into a flow state is boring. When something is boring, people tend to distract themselves to avoid it. This is why it's so important to commit. When you sit down to do a task, you need to commit to flow. You need to commit to being as focused as possible so you can put forth your best effort at whatever it is that you're doing. While just telling someone to commit is easier said than done, you have to do more than just commit. You can make this process easier for yourself by eliminating distractions. Each distraction makes it harder and harder to refocus, making flow elusive. So put your phone on Do Not Disturb and go someplace quiet. The same goes for context switching. You need to have a singular focus on whatever it is that you're doing. And context switching is one of the easiest ways to ruin flow. That's why I'm a big fan of using website blockers or only checking email during certain hours of the day. I'm reducing my chances of switching over to an unrelated task, which will disrupt my flow. Moving on to tip number 2, which is to challenge yourself. Flow happens when you're engaging in tasks that are above your current skill level. If your task is too easy, your brain won't focus. If it's too hard, you'll likely get frustrated and give up. You need to find the sweet spot. To find the sweet spot, I suggest following the 10% rule, which is to do tasks that are 10% above your skill level. 10% is a good number here because it's not large enough to overwhelm you, but just big enough to keep you on your toes. 10% is a bit subjective here, so you just need to use your best judgment. As long as the thing you're working on challenges you even slightly, then that's better than nothing. But what good is a challenge without a goal? This leads me to tip number 3, which is to have a clear goal. If a challenge keeps you stimulated, then having a clear goal is like a GPS. When you combine the two, then that is when you start to see real results. Keep in mind that the goal has to be clear and specific. Instead of saying, I'll work on my side project for a couple of hours, you could say, I'll implement this small feature into my side project in 1 hour. See how the latter statement has a more specific goal? But what if you're working on a big task, like finishing a book? Chop the task into smaller pieces that you can achieve in 1 to 2 hours. By making clear, attainable goals, you increase your chances of achieving whatever it is you set out to do. This is because you're more likely to finish 10 small tasks over 1 very large task. In any case, moving on to tip number 4, which is to take breaks. Anyone who says they can work for hours on end without breaks is lying to you, plain and simple. And the reason how I know this is that humans aren't biologically wired to do that. You have to understand that flow is a delicate neurobiological state. Most people can keep it up for about 2 to 3 hours. Anything more and you risk crashing. To avoid this, I suggest taking a break every 60 to 90 minutes. This is long enough to where you can get some serious deep work done, but not long enough to wear out your flow state. Breaks are important and you shouldn't feel guilty for taking them. Your brain needs a chance to replenish itself. It's just simple biology. There's a reason why time management techniques like Pomodoro are so popular. They force you to perform deep work in a given period before allowing you a chance to recharge. By giving yourself breaks, you allow yourself to make the most out of your flow state and prolong it for as much as possible. Alright, now for the final tip of this video, tip number 5, which is to condition yourself for flow. But what exactly do I mean by conditioning yourself? Basically, you need to train your brain to associate flow with something. An example of this would be Pavlov's dog experiment. If you're not familiar, it's where a neurologist named Ivan Pavlov would condition dogs to associate a bell ringing with food, to the point where whenever he rang a bell, the dog would start salivating. We want to replicate something similar with flow, minus the salivating part. Flow shouldn't be something that happens at random. To get the most out of it, you need to be able to consistently and reliably reach this state if you want to be as productive as possible. Flow, like anything, can become a habit. The way to make this happen is to create associations in your brain. Some ideas to do this are to have a specific location you associate with work. Like your desk or a coffee shop. Whatever that place is for you, make sure you only use it for work. This will solidify the flow state association in your brain. This could be something like coffee. If you associate coffee with entering flow, then you can create a ritual around it to help you with flow state association. My personal favorite association is music. I have playlists that I only listen to while I do flow work. Personally, I'm partial to Mongolian throat singing, but find whatever works for you. I find music to be the simplest and most enjoyable way to associate flow with your brain. I'm confident that if you follow these 5 tips, then you'll be able to access flow regularly and accomplish more in one day than most people accomplish in 1 week. While focus is important for getting work done, it means nothing if you're too stressed to focus, especially if you're trying to prepare for a coding interview. If that sounds like you, then check out this video where I cover how to deal with stress when interviewing. In any case, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.